Hey, how you doing, everyone? This is Leroy Williams, the host of the upcoming podcast, Code Cracking Government Contracts. I'm here to show you all a tutorial on how to navigate the government's main contractor database, which is known as the System for Award Management. It looks daunting and complicating, but it's not all that hard. I'm sorry, it looks daunting and complicated, but not all that hard to navigate. So if you'll give me a few minutes, I'll show you how to navigate. I have my own business, which is Corp. Doing business is Irs Consulting, KYASH, which is a mashup of the names of my older two children, Kyle and Ashley, which is a company my wife and I created in New Jersey way back in 1999 as a publishing company, but then we saw the internet, so we put the entity on the shelf and dusted it off a few years ago as a possible government contracting firm. We haven't gotten any contracts as yet. Things happen that way. However, we are in the System for Award Management, and what I'm going to do here is kind of take you through my process. I'm already in the system, but it's time for me to update my Kayash's registration. So, as you can see, we are in the System for Award Management, and again, it is a system that allows contractors to become eligible for federal awards. In other words, if you want, I'm sorry, I cannot, I'm sorry, please bear with me. I am not really, polished at this, and I don't feel like spending a whole lot of time editing my voice. So if I make a mistake or two or have to correct myself, please bear with me. Okay. It says here for my little script that to be eligible for a federal award, you must have an active SAM registration. And if you have existing awards within the government, you must renew your SAM registration annually to ensure continued payments. So, let's get started here. You have your home page. We're at the home page of the System for Award Management right now. Search records, data access, check status, about, and help. And you can start by creating a user account, which I've already done. You can register the entity, and you can search your records, okay? As you can see, I have a username and a password, which I just updated. So what we're going to do is log in, and there it returns a page stating the terms and conditions. Of course, you can scroll at your leisure and read that stuff. I already know what's in there, so I'm just going to accept them. Okay, as you can see, it says, "Welcome, Leroy Williams." See, Sam knows me. So what I'm going to do here is just show you real quick my user roles. And in other words, if you have a large company, you can go in here and click on My Roles. And here is Irs Corp. Here's the entity, and I'll click on that. And I right now am the entity administrator. I have an approved status, but there are other user roles that you can dole out within among individuals within your company. You have your reporter, entity registration viewer, etc. And I've inherited a couple of roles here, but I can also dole these roles out. So as you can see, there's Irs Corp. I also have what's known as a DUNS number. In order to register within the System for Awards Management, you must go to Dun & Bradstreet, which is another company that contracts with the government to provide the government with what would you call them, unique identifiers. And Dun & Bradstreet is also kind of like credit reporting agency for businesses, but that's another whole tutorial in itself. So I'm going to click out of my user roles, then I'm going to go to entity registrations, and I'm going to okay, let's go back. You have three choices here. You have existing entity registrations, register new entity, and bio-preferred reporting. I'm not quite sure what bio-preferred reporting is. Again, that could be a whole tutorial in itself. But what I'm going to do is click on existing entity registrations. And as you can see, you have a page description. You can search for an entity using the legal business name by filling that in, or a DUNS number if you know it, and a cage code. I will have to explain to you the cage code again. Please bear with me. I'm just trying to get through this. The cage code is what's called a commercial and government entity code validation. Basically, I'm thinking it's a location database, a location type identifier, but again, I'll come back to that a little bit later. Also, you must have a taxpayer identification number, but we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so let's click on Irs Corp. And we scroll down, and as you can see, here's the registration details for the complete record. And as you can see, there's Irs Corp, my DUNS number, and my cage code, and you have my address. If you want to visit, my address is also my home. Please give me at least a day's notice before you show up to Herndon, Virginia. Purpose of registration, all awards, which means all grants, contracts, anything that any kind of financial transaction with the government other than personal transactions are what's covered here. My registration status is active. As you can see, my expiration date is 10/27/2017. So what I'm going to do over here, now over here is registration details for incomplete record. As you can see, we have the same entity name, DUNS number, cage code, and address. So what I'm going to do is click Update Entity. And now we're at the core data page for Irs Corp. And these are, again, here's my DUNS number, my cage code. And what I'm going to do here is read to you this. If D&B sent you confirmation that your updates were completed more than 24 hours ago and don't see the updated information displayed under details, return from D&B. Please select the D&B data button. What's going on here, folks, is that like I said before, in order to register with SAM, you must first register with D&B. When you first register with SAM, SAM is going to contact D&B and say, like for example, when I first put my business into SAM back in 2013, SAM asked D&B, said the question, okay, are you familiar with this outfit called Irs Corp? And D&B answered back, yes, here is their DUNS number. SAM says to D&B, thank you very much. So that's kind of how it works. You got computer systems talking to one another, or databases talking to one another. Okay, so everything looks good so far. Now, again, we're at the core data business information page, and here's my business start date, my fiscal year-end close date, company division name. Of course, we are doing business as Irs Consulting. Irs Corp is the entity that we formed in New Jersey. Irs Consulting is the DBA, doing business as name. Company division number, well, we're too small to have a number, so I just fill in Kayash as just a placeholder for this space or field in the database, if you will. You have a corporate URL, you fill that in. We have a website. Feel free to visit it. And then we have to create and enter an MPIN. And here it says it will be shared with authorized partner applications, including grants.gov, past performance information retrieval system, and this is an interesting one. Past performance information retrieval system is the one where if you do have a contract directly with the government, a prime contract, your client within the government is going to create an evaluation of your performance, and that's where other entities can find it. So what we have is Kayash. Write this down because we'll have to fill it in, put it in elsewhere. 4321, something real simple. Okay, so we have a physical address of Herndon, Virginia. The address, Herndon, Virginia. All this stuff you'll have to fill in, but I'm just going through it real quickly because all I'm doing is updating. I'm just trying to give you a flavor of what you'd be faced with if and when you decide you want to start a business or have an existing business and need to get your business registered in SAM. Okay, next is a taxpayer ID number. As you know, every business has one of those. That's what appears on your W-2 for any business you work for as a full-time or part-time employee. You usually get that at the beginning of the following year after December 31st. We have TIN type, and that would be either your EIN or you could use your social security number if you are a sole proprietor, but it's probably better for tax purposes to be an entity into yourself, a business entity rather than an individual entity for liability purposes. Okay, here's my EIN, beginning with the 22. Excuse me. And everything looks good so far, so we're going to save and continue. Now it's processing. Okay, what's going to happen here is we're still in core data. Now we're at something called Irs Consent, and this is basically a consent to disclosure of tax information. By entering my marketing partner identification number, which is MPIN, I hereby authorize the IRS to validate and disclose to the officers and employees of the System of Award Management Program Office whether the name and or name control and taxpayer identification number provided for this registration matches or does not match the name and or control of the TIN maintained in the IRS files for Kayash Corp in the most current tax year reported. Okay, so that's a lot of gobbledygook. Unfortunately, this is the kind of stuff I do for a living, having to read through a whole bunch of gobbledygook within requests for proposals to figure out what the government agency really wants. And the reason for all that gobbledygook is laws and then regulations require it. So let's keep going. So we're also a taxpayer, Kayash Corp. Now we haven't paid any taxes because we haven't had any business. If you know of a company, by the way, that needs a subcontractor that does technical writing and or some IT support, that would be us. Keep us in mind. Okay, here we go. So here's my taxpayer address, and here's most recent tax year. Again, we hadn't really filled out any tax return forms since 2000 at all because we haven't had any revenue. So again, the name of it in the individual executing consent would be me, Leroy Williams Jr. Title, Vice President, which in this case is just the title. So what we're going to do here is enter. Now we're finally going to enter something. And again, bear with me. And if you would like, please, you're going to see this recorded, so you can scroll through if you're bored with me stumbling over things, okay? If you find that off-putting, and if you do, I'm sorry. But anyway, we're going to put in the signature, which is KYASH 4321, and then today's date, which is already pre-populated, 9/28/2017. So we are going to save and continue. Okay. Does your entity already have a cage code? And that would be yes. This number here, this 5-digit code here, is our cage code. And at some point I will explain what that is. I do recall that I tried to create an address in another what's the word I'm looking for? I tried when I updated my SAM's registration a couple of years back. I tried to use another address other than my home, but the government wouldn't accept it because they said it was more like a mail drop, and they wouldn't give me the cage code. They wouldn't apply the cage code, so I had to use a physical address. That's something to keep in mind. You have to have a physical address. Okay, let's keep going. Save and continue. So we're moving swimmingly along. As you can see, it is processing, it is thinking. Here we go. And we're at ownership details for KYASH Corp. Now it's asking me, does another entity own or control the entity you are registering? That would be no. In other words, KYASH is not a subsidiary of some big ass worldwide conglomerate. I wish, but no, we're not. So we could say, again, this is the number. The answer is no. It's already populated. And again, if you were doing this for the first time, you'd put in yes. You'd either click yes or no. So here we're going to just do a save and continue. Okay. Here's another question. Predecessor details. It asks, are you a successor to a predecessor that held a federal contractor or grant within the last 3 years? Again, I wish, but that answer is no. Still no. So we can leave that alone and hit save and continue. Okay, we are at general information. Again, here's KYASH Corp, our DUNS number, our cage code. Now, we have filled in country of incorporation, United States, state of incorporation, New Jersey. Company security level, let me take a look at that. That right now would be not applicable. You can see here we have a listing, a drop-down box of the various levels of security clearance for the company. That would be not applicable because we do not have a security clearance. Highest employee security level, please select a value. Again, for us, that would be not applicable. Hold on, let me go back to, government non-classified. That might be the best one to use. I'm sorry. And highest security level, government non-classified for right now. It says here you have categorized your entity as business or organization. Does your entity qualify as one of the following institution types? So we're going to hit this drop-down box. Are we a community development organization? No. Domestic shelter? No. Educational institution? No. Foundation? Definitely not. No, we're not a hospital, nor are we a hospital that treats our four-legged counterparts here on the planet Earth. So we'll leave that at not applicable. Disadvantaged enterprise. Is your entity certified by a state certifying agency as a Department of Transportation disadvantaged business enterprise? Right now, no. Excuse me. So we are at, this is no. So now the next question, Native American entity type. Is your organization a federally recognized Native American entity? Choose all that apply. Alaskan Native corporation owned firm, no. American Indian owned, that would be no. Indian tribe, federally recognized, would be no. Native Hawaiian organization owned firm, no. Tribally owned firm, no. So Kayash Corp is none of those, seeing that Leroy and Kathy, who created this company, are not Alaska Natives. We're not American Indian, nor are we Native Hawaiian. We are African American. Okay, so we'll leave all those blank. Excuse me. Okay, organization factors. Do one or more of these organization factors apply to your entity? If none of these apply, select not applicable. If you are a manufacturer of goods, you may make one other selection. At first, select manufacturer of goods, and another drop-down box will display for your next selection. So, in other words, if you're a manufacturer, you would get another drop-down box. So, basically, we are we foreign owned? No. Are we a small agricultural cooperative? No. Are we a limited liability company? No. Are we a subchapter S corporation? No. Are we a manufacturer of goods? No. So we leave that at not applicable. Entity structure. What is the form of your entity as defined by the IRS? We are a corporate entity, not tax exempt. As you can see, your choices are corporate entity, tax exempt, partnership or limited liability partnership, sole proprietorship, international organization, or other. So we are corporate entity, not tax exempt. We'll leave that as it is. Profit structure, well, we're for profit. You have nonprofit or other not-for-profit organization as your choices. So we are still a for-profit organization that, once we start, getting business, obviously, hopefully we'll be making profits and creating some generational wealth for our yet to be born grandkids. If we have no grandkids, then they'll go to my brother's grandkids, who would be my grandnieces right now. So anyway, like I said, folks, bear with me. This is what my podcast may sound like if it were live. I'll probably do some editing of the podcast, but this is raw, and you're getting the real Leroy here. Okay? All right, now we're down to socioeconomic categories, and you can see the list. Veteran-owned, woman-owned, joint venture, woman-owned, small business, joint venture, economically disadvantaged, woman-owned, small business, community development corporation-owned firm, minority-owned business. I have checked. The sub-check, Black American-owned, is still checked, or in the radio box. What do you call those things? I can't remember. Whatever that dot is, it's still there. It's still there. So there's no need to change that. So we'll go save and continue. Okay, now we get a little. We come to financial information. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to have to punch in the routing number for my new bank. We're no longer with PNC. This would be a checking account. So I'm going to type in these numbers and going to see how this will probably, the only editing we probably will do is covering all this up, because this is sensitive information, and of course, unless you want to deposit some money into this business account, if you want to use this data to deposit some money, we'll gladly take that. Okay, so we're going to put in a routing number. Okay, hold on. Okay. Give me a moment here. I'm looking. Okay, there's my routing number. And then the long ass account number. Sorry for the mild profanity. Like I said, you're getting the real Leroy Williams here. Okay, there you go. Now you have an automated clearinghouse number. I'm going to leave that as it is. And of course, you have a remittance address, which would be Irs Consulting in Herndon, Virginia. So we're going to hit save and continue. Okay, executive compensation. Again, executive compensation questions. Is your business or organization's let's try that again. In your business or organization's completing fiscal year, did your business or organization, the legal entity to which this specific SAM record, represented by a DUNS number, belongs, receive both of the following: 80% or more of your annual gross revenues in U.S. federal contracts, subcontracts, loans, grants, subgrants, and/or cooperative agreements, and 2, $25 million or more in annual gross revenues from U.S. federal contracts, subcontracts, loans, grants, subcontracts, and/or cooperative agreements. The answer would be, unfortunately, no. Like I said, we hope that changes down the road, but for now it is no, and the no has been pre-populated. And then we have a question here: does the public have access to information about the compensation of senior executives in your business or organization? Blah, blah, blah. And it's not applicable. You can read that a little bit later. So we're going to hit save and continue. Proceedings questions. Is there a federal solicitation on which your business or organization is represented by a DUNS number in a specific SAM record is bidding that contains FAR provision 52.20907, or has your business organization is represented by the DUNS number in a specific SAM record been awarded a federal contract or assisted award that contains FAR clause 522098 or the award term and condition described in 2 CFR 200 Appendix 12? That would be no. And of course, I would have to look up that. FAR would be the Federal Acquisition Regulations, and that thing is a monster, let me tell you. I don't recall what that is, but for now, it's no. And that's something we can go over later on. Does your business or organization is represented by the DUNS number in this specific SAM record have active current federal contracts or grants with a total value, including any exercised, unexercised options greater than $10 million? As I said before, I wish. That would be not applicable, which is pre-populated here. And then another question: within the last 5 years, has the business or organization represented by the DUNS number in this specific SAM record and or any of its principals in connection with the award to or performance by the business or organization of a federal contract or grant been the subject of a state, federal, or state criminal proceeding resulting in a conviction or other acknowledgement of fault, civil proceeding resulting in a finding of fault with a monetary fine, penalty, reimbursement, restitution, and or damages greater than $5,000, or other acknowledgement of fault and or administrative proceeding resulting in a finding of fault with either a monetary fine or penalty greater than $5,000, or reimbursement, restitution, or damages greater than $100,000 or other acknowledgement of fault? Fortunately for us, that answer would be no. But I guess as you start doing business, things are going to happen. Now, as far as criminal stuff, of course, you want to stay away from that. Now, as far as civil or administrative, I guess anybody can sue you for anything or bring some kind of action against you if they feel like it. So, lawsuits and all that crap are, I guess, a part of doing business. But here, the question is pre-populated is not applicable. So we're going to go on and hit save and continue. Now we have the SAM search authorization, what is checked here is include my entity's non-sensitive information in the SAM public search engine results and public data file. I want to maximize my business opportunities with the government and other partners. If I uncheck this box, my entity's non-sensitive information will only be available to the public in the SAM public data file. I have that checked, and it says here also, SAM never releases sensitive information such as your taxpayer identification number or banking information for electronic funds transferred to the public in either a search view or public data file. Sensitive information is only available to authorized U.S. government officials. Okay, so we have this box checked. It's already been checked because that was left over again from the last time I updated this file, which was over a year ago. So we're going to hit save and continue again. And it says you have completed the core data section of your entity's registration in SAM. Please validate the information presented on this page is correct before continuing. What they really mean to say, please validate the information presented in this page is correct. Select edit to make changes to the appropriate sections. If you are satisfied with the information entered, select save and continue. Isn't this fun, folks? And I'm just gonna roll through what's here. You have your business and taxpayer identification information, your cage code, general information, financial information, executive compensation questions, proceedings questions, and SAM search authorization. All this is good, so we are going to click save and continue. Now we're at assertions for goods and services. Let's see, it says here, please describe the goods and services your entity provides by selecting relevant North American Industry Classification System or NAICS codes. You may also select products and service codes. So what we have here listed for our company would be these NAICS codes, as you can see, computer and peripheral equipment, software merchant wholesalers, because of our affiliation with Dell, computer system design services, computer facilities management services, any other computer related services, administrative management, general management consulting services, document prep services, computer and office machine repair and maintenance. So we're just going to leave these as they are and not change those. Now, of course, if we get some kind of work as a subcontractor doing something else completely different, then I would update this. But we're going to leave this the same. And again, depending on what it is your business offers, you would look for the accompanying NAICS code, and those are available on various websites. You can Google that. Okay. Add product and service codes. We have none. Products and service codes selected, none. So we're going to leave this page as it is and click save and continue. Okay, now we're at size metrics. It says here, please enter the worldwide organizational size information for your entity. This is inclusive of your parent organization, all branches, and all affiliates worldwide, and not just the size data for the location, represented by the specific DUNS number you are registering. The worldwide size metrics you will enter here will be used to calculate your small business size status, represented by the NAICS code on the Small Business Administration SBA table of size standard. Mandatory fields are marked with an asterisk or star symbol. Complete all mandatory fields before continuing to the next page. So what we did here was we had a little bit of business, so we put in $433 for our total receipts. Average number of employees for 12 months, we just put in 1. For the location, which is optional, we just left those blank. Now again, if your business is much bigger, obviously you would need to look at your books and put in probably what would be a much larger number. Again, if our business were this big, we would probably put in a much larger number. And this is partly why some firms charge for this to do this for you, because as you can see, it can be a little time consuming. Now, hopefully you're watching this video. As you're watching it, I'm going as fast as I can through this, but you can scroll through to various pieces if you would like. But this video is going to be totally unedited. I'm just going to show you everything. And again, you're seeing the real Leroy as he's doing this. So let's hit save and continue. Okay, your entity's EDI, electronic data interchange information. The system defaults to no for this question. So do you wish to enter EDI information for your non-government entity, since we're not a non-government? No, we don't have EDI, so we're just going to leave that as no. If we did put in yes, then we'd have to fill in all these fields. So we are going to leave that as no. Okay, we're at disaster response information. Do you wish to be included in the disaster response registry? We're going to say no, because we're not. This is more like construction, if you will, and of course you need bonding, which is sort of insurance against you screwing up on a job, and your client has to find somebody else. I've seen them in the past, they're called bid bonds. I've had to include many a bid bond with a proposal, especially when I worked at the environmental company in New Jersey about 10 years ago. So anyway, here's the bonding level, and you've got all these fields, they're blank for us. Geographic area served, again, we've kind of left this one blank, and we're just going to hit save and continue. All right, so now we're going to go back and review what are our assertions. Here's our DUNS number, our DMB legal business name, the NAICS code selected, our size metrics, EDI information, and disaster response information. It all looks good, and we're going to hit save and continue. Okay, now we're at representations and certifications. This is the really fun part, where you have to represent and certify various regulations in order to do business with our federal government. And the first question here is, who are the persons within Irs Corp responsible for determining prices offered within bids or proposals under FAR 52.203.2? I guess that would be me, Leroy Williams Jr., and here's my name and title, and that's been pre-populated. Then, does Irs Corp have other plants, facilities at different addresses routinely used to perform on contracts? Right now, no. Although we are registered or incorporated in the state of New Jersey. We are also authorized right now to do business within the Commonwealth of Virginia, but we're going to just leave that as this question as no. TIN is on file, so there's nothing to, that's just an assertion. And for products designated by the Environmental Protection Agency and provided by Irs Corp, does the percentage of recovered material content meet the applicable EPA guidelines? And let's see. Please select a value. Yes, no. Vendor will provide information with specific offers. So if we ever, put in a bid, this is something we would have to include. But for now, we'll just leave it at vendor will provide information with our specific bids or offers to the government. In other words, if we submit a bid, we'll talk about that then. So we'll hit save and continue. Okay, FAR Response 2, Federal Acquisition Regulation Response 2. Please answer the following questions related to the Federal Acquisition Regulation. There are 4 pages of questions. This is the second. Each question is designed to complete a specific FAR provision. The direct link to each provision follows the question. Selecting the FAR reference will open a new window and take you to the full text of the provision. All questions are mandatory. You will review your answers in the context of the FAR provisions at the end of this section. What's happening here, folks, is with each proposal, in the past, with each proposal, you had to sort of check off these representations and certifications with each, bid you submitted. What SAM basically does is have you do it once, and then when you bid to the government, you can say, hey, all this stuff is in SAM. Everything, all our response to your reps and certs questions within this request for proposals is already in your central database, SAM, and you'll be able, there'll be a choice, if you will, in the RFP allowing you to state that. So anyway, we're going to keep going. Basically, we're basically saying that your company meets the federal acquisition regulations. Say, like I said, this ain't no joke. Okay, let's go to number 5. Is Irs Corp a small business concern that wishes to be considered for status as a surplus labor area? And this deals with this FAR number. I put down no. Okay. Is Irs Corp owned or controlled by a common parent that files its federal tax returns on a consolidated basis? Like I said, I wish, and we have no. If the answer were yes, then we would be able to fill in these fields, company name and TIN, for our common parent or a parent. Our record indicates there's active exclusion for Irs Corp. Are there any of Irs Corp or its principals currently debarred, suspended, proposed for debarment, or declared ineligible for the award of contracts by any federal agency? Thank God, no. You really don't want to be disbarred, suspended, proposed for disbarment, or otherwise declared ineligible. That would probably be a whole nother podcast in itself, because there are companies out there that get debarred for doing, running afoul of the regulations, because, government doesn't particularly care for that. So we have answered no. For the past 3-year period, has Irs Corp or any of its principals been convicted or had a civil judgment rendered against it for commission of fraud or criminal offense in connection with attempting to obtain or performing a public, federal, state, or local contract or subcontract, violation of federal or state antitrust statutes relating to the submission of offers or commission of embezzlement, theft, forgery, bribery, falsification, or destruction of records, making false statements, tax evasion, violating federal criminal laws, or receiving stolen property. And these are addressed by these two FAR regulations, or FAR provisions. We can easily answer no. See, isn't this fun, folks? Okay, in the last 3 years, has Kayash Corp been notified of any federal delinquent taxes in an amount that exceeds $3,500 for which liability remains unsatisfied? Thank God, no. Okay, here are the two FAR provisions that are addressed, that this question addresses. 9, is Kayash Corp or any of its principals presently indicted for or otherwise criminally or civilly charged by a governmental entity with commission of any of the offenses enumerated in question 8? No. Within the past 3 years, has Kayash been terminated for cause or default? No. This is so much fun. Please list the name of any HubZones businesses participating in a HubZone joint venture with Kayash Corp. HubZone the HubZone refers to historically underutilized business zones. These are businesses which generally are in the hood, as we like to call them, or in rural areas, although I know of HubZones that show up in surprising places like K Street in downtown Washington. Trust me on that, because I've worked with a company that was talking about working with one, and when I saw their address, K Street, HubZone, but yeah, they show up in some surprising places, and that's an SBA determination based on census data, and it probably changes like every 10 years. So, but that's a HubZone, and HubZones have some incredible regulations as well, and that's another podcast topic. Okay, let's continue. If there are any, going back to 11, I'm sorry, we checked none because we're not participating in any joint ventures. If there are any small disadvantaged businesses participating in a joint venture with Kayash Corp, please list the names. Of course, we check none. Our records indicate that Kayash Corp is not participating in a small business joint venture, so we leave that alone. The government's basically saying, yeah, we don't see you participating in such a joint venture, so that's an assertion on their part. Our records indicate that Kayash Corp is not participating in an economically disadvantaged women-owned small business joint venture. Okay, and now that's another question we don't have to answer. And here's number 15. We've just gone through 11, 12, 13, 14. Now we're up to 15. Does Kayash Corp provide any data to the government that qualifies as limited rights data or restricted computer data? We just left that as no. Okay, so we're going to hit save and continue. Not quite sure what happened there. We're back to the login page, so we're going to hit accept. Let's go back to entity registrations, existing entity. For some strange reason, I don't know what happened here. Let's go through these again. I might have to edit this a little bit later on. Okay, let's go back to reps and certs. FAR response 2. go back to reps inserts. I don't know what, I really don't know what happened here. Let's go back. Let's go back through this real quickly. What we'll probably okay. It says the MPIN that you entered. Okay, let's go back real fast. Kayash 4321, okay. Hit save and continue. Let's try that again. Okay. And hit save and continue. Okay. Let's hit save and continue again. Sorry, folks. Like I said, I usually don't have a problem with this. I don't know what happened. Give me a moment. You can probably fast forward through this, because right now we're at reps inserts and this thing is forcing me to go through going through all the pages again. I apologize for this. I'll probably have to edit this out. So, something just popped up on the page from our good friends at Dell. Okay, I think we're back to FAR response 2. Sorry about that, folks. I'm not quite sure what happened. We hit save and continue. Let's see what happens when we hit save and continue for FAR response 2. Okay, we're back to FAR response 3. For some strange reason, the system took us back to the initial page, the overview page, and I kind of had to kind of fast forward back through everything. Apparently I must have put in the wrong data. So anyway, that happens. Anyhow, let's keep going. All right, so it's asking, okay, here's FAR response 3. We're at question 16. Our records indicate that Kayash Corp has selected the structure of not tax exempt. That's okay. We don't have to change that. Are we a small disadvantaged business? And based on all these NAICS codes, we put in yes, and you saw a box pop up. Okay, 18 reserved. I'm not quite sure what that means. Does Kayash Corp deliver any end products from the corresponding country of origin that are listed in the list of products requiring federal contractor certification as to forced or indentured child labor under Executive Order number 13126, that would be no. Okay? If yes, has Kayash, based on good faith effort to determine whether forced or indentured child labor was used to mine, produce, or manufacture any such end product, determine that is not aware of any such use of child labor. So I guess if you're mining something in another, if whatever you're producing is made of raw materials mined from some country elsewhere, you want to make sure that you're not benefiting from forced or indentured child labor, aka child slavery. So yeah, that's that. Yeah, this is you gotta keep yourself. You gotta be careful about this one. So, okay, here's number 20. Has Kayash Corp held previous contracts, subcontracts, subject to the federal acquisition regulation, equal opportunity? We can say no. Are there any end products delivered to the government by Kayash Corp by foreign non-domestic end products? No. We can leave that. Again, these are pre-populated from my prior updates. Has Kayash Corp filed all required equal opportunity compliance? Has Kayash Corp filed all required equal opportunity compliance reports? No, we don't need to. We're a small business. We're small disadvantaged. Now, when we get to a size where we're that big, then we would have to do that. And it says 23. Please choose one of the following statements that applies to Kayash Corp. Kayash Corp has developed and has on file affirmative action programs required by the Secretary of Labor Regulations. Kayash Corp does not have developed and does not have on file affirmative action programs required by the Secretary of Labor Regulations. Kayash Corp has not had previous contracts subject to written affirmative action programs requirements for the Secretary of Labor Regulations. We have this circle checked, so we will leave we'll leave it as is. Number 24. We just did number 23. Number 24. We just answered number 23. I'm sorry. Does Kayash Corp provide maintenance, calibration, and/or repair of information technology, scientific and/or medical and business equipment? We'll say no. And these are a couple of other questions that you can check out on that are not applicable to us. These are some sub-questions. We're going to hit save and continue. Okay, we're at FAR response 4. Does Kayash provide services as described in FAR 221003? I cannot remember what those are, but the first time I did this, I had to open up each one of these FAR regulations to make sure they didn't apply to us. So this would be no. And again, these are things that you would, if you need help, I can help you roll through that. If you're a small business, a lot of this stuff isn't going to apply, but if you're a large business, then you could probably afford to pay somebody to do all this for you. Okay, number 26. You have not entered any federal supply class for manufactured end products in the PSC list and assertions, so you're not required to answer this question. Wonderful. Is Kayash Corp an inverted domestic corporation? Lord, I can't remember what that is, but that's something we can look up. I can't remember what an inverted domestic corporation is. I'm sorry, but we have no. Is Kayash a subsidiary of an inverted domestic corporation? No. Let's look up inverted domestic real quick. Okay. converted domestic corporation means foreign incorporated entity that meets the definition of an invested domestic corporation under this law. And basically it's a foreign entity, and we are not a foreign entity. So we're just going to leave these at no. Number 29, I guess that's saved for a future provision. Number 30, does your entity have any unpaid federal tax liability that has been assessed, for which all judicial and administrative remedies have been exhausted or have lapsed, and that is not being paid in a timely manner pursuant to an agreement with the authority for collecting the tax liability? We have no. We have answered no. Has your entity been convicted of a felony criminal violation under a federal law within the preceding 24 months? Thank God, no. Did Kai at 32, we just answered 31, 32, did Irs Corp either receive $7.5 million or more in federal contracts during the previous fiscal year, requiring it to publicly disclose greenhouse gas emissions and reduction goals, or receive less than $7.5 million in federal contracts during the previous federal fiscal year, but still want to publicly disclose greenhouse gas emissions and reduction goals? So we must select a value. That would be no. That was simple. And so we have a couple other questions that are not applicable to us, so we're going to hit save and continue. Now we're at architect engineer response. Our records indicate that Irs Corp has not selected these following NAICS codes, so SF 330 Part 2 information is not applicable. SF 330 is the architect engineering federal form that I have done in the past for the engineering and construction environmental, the environmental company I worked for in the past. So these NAICS codes are probably related to those areas, engineering and construction. So we wouldn't have to fill out SF 330 Part 2. And yeah, I remember there are a lot of references to other regulations, cross references, and you have to kind of look those up if you don't know them. So we're going to hit save and continue. Okay, we're at defense response. Does Irs Corp wish to bid on or currently hold any DoD or DoD funded contracts? Of course, yes. All right, so we would be part of the military industrial complex, but I think we all are in some way, shape, or form. Does Irs Corp anticipate the supplies will be transported by sea in the performance of any contract or subcontract resulting from this solicitation? At this point, no. That was 35. 36. Does Irs Corp represent that the prices set forth in this contract are based on wage rates or material prices established and controlled by a foreign government and do not include contingency allowances to pay for possible increases in wage rates or material prices? That would be no. As you can see, if we had yes, we'd have to select the country. Number 37, is Irs Corp effectively owned or controlled by a foreign government? No. I'm telling you, this is deep. Okay, number 38, is Irs Corp a foreign entity in which the government of a covered foreign country has an ownership interest that enables the government to effect satellite operations? No. Is Irs Corp a foreign entity? That's 38. 39. Is Irs Corp a foreign entity that plans to provide or use or launch other satellite services under the contract from a covered foreign country? No. Number 40. Is Irs Corp offering commercial satellite services provided by a foreign entity in which the government of a covered foreign country has an ownership interest that enables the government to effect satellite operations? That would be no. Number 41, is Kayash Corp offering commercial satellite services provided by a foreign entity that plans to or is expected to or to provide or use, launch, or other satellite services under the contract from a covered foreign entity? No. Told you this was deep, folks. We're going to hit save and continue. Okay, represent certain. We're almost finished. These are read-only provisions. The following DFAR and DFAR's provisions are provided for you to read. They do not require completion of any data. Select a provision number to expand and read the full text. When certifying to the information on this page, you are also certifying that you've read each one of these provisions. Okay. Again, when I first filled this out back in 2013, I opened up each one of these and read them. Okay, we have certification and disclosure regarding payments to influence certain federal transactions, fancy term for lobbying, prohibition on contracting with entities that require certain confidentiality agreements or statements, prohibition on contracting with inverted domestic corporations, which we addressed a few minutes ago, contract terms and conditions required to implement statutes or executive orders / commercial items, compliance with veterans employment reporting requirements, veterans employment reporting requirements, combating trafficking in persons, slavery, certification regarding trafficking in persons compliance plan, bio-based product certification, prohibition on conducting restricted business operations in Sudan, prohibition on contracting with entities engaging in certain activities or transactions related to Iran, representation and certifications, royalty information, reserve officer training corps and military recruiting on campus, representation regarding combating trafficking in persons. Don't know what the difference is, but I'm sure there's a little subtle difference between that and what's up above. Report of intended performance outside the United States and Canada, submission with offer. Secondary Arab boycott of Israel. Authorization to perform. Disclosure of ownership or control by the government of a country that is a state sponsor of terrorism. Okay. Tax exemptions, Italy, representation. Tax exemptions, Spain, representation. Special construction and equipment charges. Transportation of supplies by sea, alternate 1 and 2. These are now user-completed provisions. The FAR and DFAR's provisions shown below have been populated on data you provided earlier in your registration. Please open and review each provision before you proceed from this page. If you need to correct any data, a link will be provided to the relevant page for editing. None of this has changed. In my opinion, I'm not going to open that up for now because this tutorial has gone a little long already. As you can see, there are quite a few more, and I'm just going to kind of scroll up slowly so you can see them. I'm not going to read them, but we can just check off here that I've read each of the DFAR and FAR provisions presented on this page. I have read them in the past. Nothing's changed. And yeah, nothing has changed at all. So I'm going to check this and hit save and continue. Now we have our mandatory, our points of contact, and here's my name and my email address, phone number, same again. My name and email address under accounts receivable. I'm the accounts receivable point of contact. I'm the electronic business point of contact. I'm the government business point of contact. So I can hit save and continue. Okay. Register or update your firm's profile. I have already done this. We've already done this. I won't go through all this. If you need help with this, I can help you with it. But for now, we'll just hit save and continue. Okay, so we're going to scroll through everything. Business TIN information, general information, financial information, executive compensation questions, proceeding questions, assertions, size metrics, EDI information, disaster response information, representations and certifications. Scroll through all those. Mandatory points of contact, alternate points of contact. We have my son, Kyle. He's the government business alternate point of contact. We have a past performance point of contact, and Kyle would be the past performance alternate point of contact. Kyle's the electronic business alternate point of contact. We'd already put him in. So now we're at the almost at the end. By submitting this registration, you are certifying the information is correct and complete. Knowingly providing false or misleading information may result in criminal prosecution under Section 1001, Title 18 of the United States Code. Criminal penalties could include imposition of a fine, imprisonment, or both. You may be subject to other penalties as well, including but not limited to administrative remedies such as suspension and debarment, ineligibility to participate in programs conducted under the authority of the Small Business Act, or civil liability under the False Claims Act. Now, with all this regulation, you wonder why businesses want to do business with the government, but it's a lot, but the rewards can be great. So we're going to hit submit. It is processing. And we get a confirmation page. Congratulations, you have completed the registration of your entity. Print the summary button below to be directed to the entity record page of the entity dashboard. This page will allow you to save and print a copy of the completed registration for your records. So now, what happens next? Well, first of all, I have been successful in completing the updated registration of Irs Corp. And what will happen? Let's see. We will, okay, I have an instructions page that you can't see. It says complete your registration update by following the on-screen instructions. Then it says select submit at the very end. You'll see a congratulations message on the screen when you submit your renewal. And now what's going to happen is this registration is going to go through the taxpayer identification number validation, and it's that's through the IRS. It's also going to go through the commercial and government entity or CAGE code validation. I believe that's done by the Defense Logistics Agency, because I had heard from them once before when trying to do this. Together, these processes can take up to 12 business days after you submit your registration. While the average is much faster, allow time for these external processes and begin your renewal now. So at this point, I basically have to wait for Sam to say, okay, Leroy, your company, Irs Corp, does check out with the IRS and the Defense Logistics Agency in terms of your cage code, you're good to go. You can apply or bid on jobs with the United States of America. And folks, again, thank you very much for staying with me. If you have stayed with me through all this, it's likely I'm probably going to, you know what, I may just leave it as it is in terms of what happened with that glitch, with that earlier glitch. I may just show that to you to show what can go wrong rather than edit it. So this is pretty much raw, as I said. You're getting the real Leroy here. I appreciate you staying with me through this half hour or 45 minute, I don't know how long it is, this exercise. And if you have any questions, holler at me. Keep in mind, I still have this podcast planned. It's called Code Cracking Government Contracts. We still have the GoFundMe page up. We will, if you feel like donating something to the cause, we're still open for donations. You can go to my page on Facebook, which is Code Cracking Government Contracts, and that's about it. I hope this little tutorial helps somebody. And again, you got the real Leroy, the raw, uncut Leroy doing this with all my ums, ahs, and whatnot. Again, I ain't the most polished dude in the world, but I try. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was helpful to you. And with that, this is Leroy Williams of Code Cracking Government Contracts saying deuces and God bless.